I've got two Tojiro Kiritsuke knives. One is 6 1/4 and the other is 8 1/4 inches. And this is going to be my chicken fried rice dinner prep first use video. And usually I do these videos late morning, early afternoon, but it is 5:31 to be exact. So I'm gonna enjoy some wine. I'm gonna geek out over these knives a bit, prep my dinner, and share a bit about why I'm excited to use these. I'll get started with some glamour shots of these Tojiro Kiritsukes. So what do we have here? Like I said, 6 1/4 and 8 1/4 inch. Both of these are VG10 stainless steel with a 3-layer construction. The middle has this bead wash type of finish to it. A bolster with a triple riveted full tang Western style handle. The clips you just saw of these knives are from before even washing them. Since I have washed these and I'm gonna strop them before I use them, please hone your blades before you use them for the first time so you're not disappointed. I've had some very expensive knives come my way that just needed a quick little boop, 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 and they were like phenomenal. So just hone your blade. I'm gonna show you this now, which would be these little marks on that bead wash, bead blasted, I forget what it's called. It doesn't even say in the description on the site, but you can see these watermarks that are on there. So I have a feeling that this matte-like sandblasted finish is going to essentially patina. You can see at the tip here. And all I did was wash these and dried them, and that's that. So I'm showing you this, so if you get these knives for $115 and $90 US, you're not disappointed after washing them and you see that. I have a feeling that they are going to just have some marks to them. So I'm gonna show you a close-up of them after I'm done prepping, washed and dried, and on one of my easels like I do in my other videos. So you can just, hey, actually let's show that now. Here you go. This is what these knives look like after my first prep sesh with them. I've only had one sip of wine. Give me a break, okay? Back to the footage. After one prep sesh, this is what they look like. So if yours look like this and you see this video, don't be disappointed. If anything, I like it when a knife gets a little character. Okay, I'm just gonna put these on the strap, tip to heel, going away from the sharpened edge. Just a little bit of pressure, good to go. I am very excited about these. When I got a new shipment in yesterday from Cutlery More HQ, got some Takayuki, some Senton. Oh my God. Woo! You're just gonna have to wait on that one. And these two. And then what else did I get? A couple of the new Global X's, and I got some K Sabatiers. So I'm gonna be doing videos on all of that. But as soon as I opened these up and I saw them, it was like, I can't wait to use these knives. I love anything with a K-tip. These are Kiritsukes. I love something with a real straight spine and edge profile. And for the price, come on, this is gonna be great. All right, it's time to prep. I'm going to, now that you've seen the B-roll, you've seen the close-ups, you know about the knives, let's just get right into this. And I'm gonna get started with the least messy thing, which would be these peppers that, as you can see, are a little, well, they're getting there. And if a knife can cut a wrinkled pepper skin or a tomato, a soft older tomato, then they're good to go. Ooh, man. Pretty effortless. So this is how I cut a pepper, by the way. Aim for hitting the base of the stem, like so, and then The stem pops out. That's all usable. You just twist this out. Good to go. Cut the bottom off. Bottoms are totally usable. I'm doing some type of stir fry, chicken and rice type thing. So let's do, I guess we'll do some small dice, small to medium-ish dice. What's great about this VG10 stainless steel is it is a very forgiving stainless steel that is coming in at that 61 Rockwell. And with that, it can handle a bit more abuse. So if you want to get into a rock chop with it, not all the time if that's your primary cut, don't get a Japanese blade or get one with a softer stainless steel. But if you want to get into a rock chop, which you're going to see here when I do the green onions, they'll be totally fine. If you want to use the blade to scrape on your cutting board, of course a softer board is preferred like this larch, then you are good to go. You don't have to worry about babying the knife as much as you would some of these harder Japanese steels. Now, with this longer Kiritsuke, I kind of do this when I have product that's bunched up and not totally secure. This like, I don't know, this like U-shaped dip down type of cut. I don't know what to call it. I've never really seen anyone call it anything other than a push or a tap, but that's not what it is because the motion is very different. And I do this because it allows me to get into the product that is loosey-goosey like these and unstable without pushing it and having it kind of move around. So that's what I'm doing with that motion. But what I did notice a couple times already is the geometry, which these are hand ground, sharpened, and honed, is that it has a very, very thin edge for this type of knife for this price. And the tip of that Kiritsuke hitting the cutting board a little bit, digging in, which is fine. It's the way the knife is designed. So just be careful when you're doing a rock chop that you're not going too hard or too high up. So let's switch over to, as far as I'm concerned, this 6 1/4 inch is, it's basically a bunka that, yeah, it has a decent curvature coming up off the cutting board, but it has a very straight spine. The spine doesn't kind of taper down a little bit, and it's not as tall as most bunkas, but I would kind of put this more in a bunka category only because of the length. The blade, everything is like identical as to this, but just shrunk a little bit. There's no real other difference in curvature or anything like that. So I don't know. They call it a Kiritsuke, so we call it a Kiritsuke, but my mind goes right to bunka. Also, I say Kiritsuke. If you say Kiritsuke, whatever you want to call it, fine. I watched a bunch of videos. The first time that I had to do a video on a Shun dual core for Shun before I started doing work with Cutlery and more. And I had to look up how to pronounce it because I'm like, it is not Kiritsuke or Kiritsuke. I'm like, it seems like that would be too easy to call it that. So I watched a bunch of videos of various Japanese chefs and knife enthusiasts that talked about this blade, and that's how they said it. I don't know. It stuck. You know, I also used to say Gyuto instead of Gyuto up until recently. It's just weird how you hear a word pronounced a certain way and that's just how it sticks. Like I used to live in Wilkes Barre, Pennsylvania is the proper pronunciation. And that's just how I pronounced it before even like being there because we moved there kind of blind. Anyway, well, everyone locally would call it Wilkes-Barre. And then I kind of went to Wilkes-Barre. So even here in the US, we say things, look, little pepper butt. We say things a bit differently. Okay. So as you can see, I am effortlessly going through this pepper with both of these knives. For something a bit larger like the pepper, I would prefer a longer blade than the 6-inch, but preferring it and still being able to work with a shorty here are completely different things. Obviously, it works totally fine. If anyone's curious, if you watch the videos enough and you see me look over here, it's because I've got a 55-inch TV screen on a rolling cart stand that I use as my monitor for this camera. And although I do have the center focus to right there, about right there, sometimes it goes in and out. So it's just my way to be able to make sure that the action shot camera is rocking. Okay, so pepper prep, 2 thumbs up. Let's go over to some tomato. I'm doing a cucumber tomato salad, just real simple as well. Okay, so here we go. How do I want to do these? Let's do quarters. Now, with a Kiritsuke or a bunka or some K-tip gyutos that have a tip that is closer to the cutting board than the spine, when you're slicing, forget about hollows, even if you have a sashimi finish, anything like that. When you're slicing, if you keep your blade flat, you have more surface contact with the product. So if you just come with an angle, like with the tip up like this, you don't have to worry about your product sticking to the side of your blade. You can do this with, you know, a lot of gyutos because of the more downward pointed tip, a more centered tip, chef's knife or gyuto, but the only knife you really have a real hard time with that would be like, say the Zwilling Pros that have that real upward curvature where the tip of the knife meets at the spine. That's the only time that you'd really kind of have a issue with that. Okay, now let's say you're doing something like this. It's not as stable. You want to not come at it like that because you know what's going to happen back there. Well, then you go into your basic push, but you can see the product sticking. So beautiful. I had a feeling that I was gonna like these knives, and I'm loving it. All right, I'm gonna pick up the pace a little bit here. Let's get this cucumber going. So don't forget about the little juice gutters or whatever the kids are calling them these days for stabilizing round product. I'm doing a salad, so I don't want to go too thin on these. Like this is the bulk of the salad, this and tomato. If I was doing like a salad with lettuce and that was the bulk and other things like that, then I would be cutting much thinner slices there. Really, really good flow. I love the straight edge profile of these, and compared to a lot of other Kiritsukes that are out there that have a pretty decent curve at the tip of the blade, I feel like this has a much straighter edge profile. Even the little nugget here, it's feeling good. All right, we're gonna save the carrots for last. Let's get some onion. So I'm gonna do an onion julienne. Because I have a sneaking suspicion that this matte-like ply here in the center is going to possibly provide a little bit of friction for a very fast tap chop. It happens. It happens with some Karochi knives, happens with some Nasiji knives. It just really depends on A, how new the knife is, and then B, just because sometimes they can soften up and like smooth out more, but it just depends on the finish. So here we go. No issues whatsoever. That felt fantastic. So that little scrape on the board there, I'm not hearing any popping or cracking or fracturing or anything like that. And again, this is VG10, 60 Rockwell. It can handle a bit of abuse. Yes, this is pretty thin at the edge there. So aside from a little bit of scrape here and there, just don't go wild with that type of knife use. And if you are going to do that with your knives, which for me, a $90 or $115 knife that feels like this, I know that I can just blast through prep with and not have to pick up a bench scraper, anything like that. I'm gonna hone it, I'm gonna strop it. Whenever I need to sharpen my knives or any of the knives, I'm just gonna go boop, 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 boop on a 1000 and then a 5 probably strop, and these things will be totally good to go and they'll be easy to sharpen. Good Japanese knives to practice sharpening with. The little guy, I've noticed that with a shorter height blade like this one compared to the other, I don't know exactly what the height is, but I would say that this is about 3/8 of an inch taller, maybe a 1/2 inch taller. Whenever I'm doing a faster tap chop like that, that I slow down just a little bit. And the reason why is the height of the blade stabilizes the knife in the product longer. And with a shorter blade, I still pull it up as high, and I cut myself on camera with the Enzo Bunka prep knife. Because I was using a bunch of different knives, different sizes, and the little one got me. Shit happens when you film prepping your dinner. All right, I'm saving the carrots for last. We're gonna do a little biased rock chop type of cut here. Clean off the ends. If you want to eat those, go for it. And then I just kind of do my best to do a little rough. This is where having a tip is nice because you can kind of come in here in between, just grab a little slice. If you want to be even extra, just only get the very, very end, go for it. Dude, do your thing. All right. So anytime that I'm working with these, I tend to start with a push chop with, I should probably split these. A push chop with the root end, the whites. Excellent surface contact with the cutting board for a push, especially for something that's widened like this, where it's, 2 or so inches. Now that I am into the softer product and I'm not coming up higher off the cutting board, that's where I can get into a nice, delicate rock chop. I am letting the blade do the work. All I'm really doing is giving it a little bit of a forward motion, more so than down. So it's pulling back and sliding forward. And then as I'm pivoting here to go down the product, I'm not giving a lot of force. That's how you want to do the rock chop so that you don't end up tweaking your blade real hard into your cutting board. You do not need a lot of force, especially when you have a knife that has a fine ass blade like this Tojiro. That is the official, unofficial Cutlery and More stance on this blade. These blades. Okay, let's go for a push. Getting started. Great surface contact with the cutting board. Okay. And now we're going to go into that super delicate rock. Okay. What's great about the height with these is the tip of neither of these is digging into the cutting board, which can happen with K-tip, Kiritsuke, Bunka knives. And for a 6 1/4 inch knife to be able to do the rock chop for, again, 1.5 inches, 2 inches or so wide this way of product, I'm getting excellent cutting board surface contact. I'm not using a lot of force. It's just going right on through. I'm using the knife to scrape. I've got a decently soft board here. This larch wood is right there with Hinoki, depending on the Janka scale website that you read, anywhere from 500 to 800. Wow, these knives are impressive for the price. Again, the 6 inch is 6 1/4 inch, $90, 89, 90 something, 95, 99, and then $114.95, $115 for the 8 1/4. 2 inch difference. Okay, so now we're gonna do a little carrot julienne. I'm gonna box this off and save that for my German Shepherd. She absolutely loves little carrot Scooby snacks. These are some thick carrots compared to what I normally find. Woo! Okay, so that, all right, I was going straight down. There's this like carrot test that a lot of people do. And they say if it doesn't go through effortlessly, then like it's not a good grind. It's not splitting it. I feel like right here is getting caught on that. So if you are chopping carrots all day long and that's a concern of yours, then it's something that you can consider. I really don't want to cut myself on camera. Okay, so we're going that way. And then I'm just gonna go this way. I am kind of doing a push and it's not feeling very good in a push. So flat surface area. I'll be honest with you. I am not feeling that. It might be because of how light the blades are. This is our Zuma. Yeah, I mean, it's, these are hand forged, the Zuma chef's knives that we made. Well, partnered with a company to make for us. And it's a very, very different feel. Let's grab, this is a Saji STRIX, which has a very similar blade width and geometry. And I noticed with this one, this is a $500 knife that, okay, so that feels a little bit different with the carrot. Let's try, I'm gonna be honest with you guys about this type of stuff. Let's try this Nigara SG2 Kiritsuke. And I'm just curious what this is gonna feel like. Okay, yeah. So, I mean, it's not going through super easy. Let's go back to the Tojiro. I think it's the finish on the blade that is grabbing a hold of the carrot as I get through. Because the first initial little right in, fine. And then that finish on the side here is where things are grabbing. It's funny, of all those knives that I just tried, the one that honestly just like butter, which is funny because it's a thicker ground blade, but it's just, I guess, the weight and the geometry, the steel. Check out the Zuma video. We've got it out there. Okay, so what did we just learn? All these are stainless steel, so I can put them back here and not have to worry about wiping them off right away. If you are doing a bunch of carat julienne, and you're concerned about speed, I feel like it feels better doing it with, instead of more of a push, with a tap. I can get into a little bit better of a flow. Okay, now let's do a couple layers here. Let's try the little guy. See, I'm doing that boop, 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 kind of like tip to heel type of, and now I'm doing the opposite, that rock like this. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I loved everything that I have done with these knives, except for the carat. So again, if you're not doing this and everything else that you saw was good, yeah, I mean, it is a completely different world with this Zuma. Let's go to a knife that everyone knows. This is the Meiji Kramer. A little bit better. I got to use the back part of the blade where it's, yeah, definitely a bit better. And now I'm going to use a stainless steel CCK, their number 3, the small Chinese cleaver. That feels really good. So I think there's a combination. Well, that just, whoo. Okay. I've got weight. I've got a, geez, just a laser of a blade here. Gosh, instead of having 2 knives to clean, now I'm gonna have how many? And then let's do the Mac Mighty MTH80, their Mac Pro. So this feels good. A little wide there. Shh, shh. Normally I wouldn't do this many at a time. I'd stack more of them together here. Back to the Tojiro Kiritsuke. I really think it's the finish on the side. Back to the Zuma. I mean, this is why it's awesome having different knives and working with so many, is you pick up on these little things that can, you know, kind of be a deal breaker for some people. Like if you are julienning a bunch of carats often for work, then those Tojiros are not the best for it, flat out. But everything else that I did here, peppers, onions, green onion, tomato, cucumber, and I'm pretty sure that they would be totally fine with plenty of other, probably softer, less dense product. Like a russet potato, they'd probably be totally fine because they're wetter. It's going to slide through, but a sweet potato or a carrot or certain types of gourds or squash, they might not be the best because they're so thin and they're very lightweight. So you got to hear the pros, which there were, hold on. You got to hear the pros of the Tojiro 6 1/4 and 8 1/4 Kiritsukes, along with one con. For the price, 90 bucks and $1.15 US, VG10 stainless steel, full bolster, not full bolster, full tang with a nice minimalistic bolster and a more Western style handle. You can't beat the value for the quality and the overall performance. But again, if you're doing something like this all the time, consider this sandblasted, bead blasted center of the blade. I almost wish they put it at the top part, kind of like a Kurochi line or like the Nasiji or something like that, but still fantastic blades for the price. And overall, I would say 8.5 out of 10 in the sense of performance, but because of the price, 11 out of 10. There you have it. I'm Chef Brandon with Cutlery and More. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm gonna clean up, have a couple more glasses of wine, cook my wife some chicken fried rice, put the baby down, and clean. Take care. All right. Ooh, cucumber.